The violence has raged for months. Families held their breath, clinging to hope. Now, a fragile ceasefire between Israel and Hamas offers a glimmer of light in the darkness. This historic agreement includes the release of hostages held captive since the devastating October 7th attacks. The initial phase of the agreement brought the release of 33 hostages. Among them were women, children, elderly men, and those in need of urgent medical care. Rumi Gonen, taken hostage during the horrific attack on the Nova Music Festival, tasted freedom once more. Shiri Bibas and her two sons, Ariel and Kafir, were also reunited with loved ones. Americans Keith Siegel and Sagui Dekel Chen, whose wife gave birth while he was held captive, are finally free to return home. This first step brings immense relief to the families who have endured unimaginable anguish. However, the fight is far from over. Many hostages remain in captivity, their fates hanging in the balance. The road ahead is long, and the outcome uncertain. This breakthrough was no small feat. It came after intense negotiations, brokered by a coalition of international actors. The United States, Qatar, and Egypt played pivotal roles in mediating the agreement. Each country brought its own leverage to the table. The United States, with its close ties to Israel, provided crucial diplomatic pressure. Qatar, known for its role as an intermediary with Hamas, facilitated communication channels. Egypt, sharing a border with Gaza, leveraged its influence and offered a neutral ground for talks. The coordinated efforts of these nations were crucial in bridging the deep divide between the two sides. The negotiations were fraught with challenges, with each side harboring deep mistrust and animosity towards the other. But the shared goal of securing the release of the hostages, coupled with the tireless efforts of the mediating countries, ultimately paved the way for this fragile agreement. This ceasefire is not a simple exchange. It is a complex agreement with high stakes for both sides. The terms of the agreement involve a phased release of hostages in exchange for the release of Palestinian prisoners held by Israel. Israel has agreed to release hundreds of Palestinian security prisoners. This includes minors, women, and individuals facing health challenges. Among those slated for release are Nawal Abd Fattah, convicted of attempted stabbing in 2020, and Ibrahim Zmar, involved in a 2023 Jerusalem shooting. However, the agreement excludes individuals convicted of leading major terrorist attacks. The released prisoners cannot be rearrested on the same charges and are not required to sign declarations. A specific exchange ratio has been established, linking the release of each hostage to a set number of Palestinian prisoners. This delicate balance underscores the complexity of the situation. It highlights the immense challenges in finding common ground between two sides with a long history of conflict and mistrust. The ceasefire agreement has been met with mixed emotions. For the families of those released, it is a moment of joyous reunion, a time to heal and rebuild their lives. But for the families of those still held captive, the wait continues, filled with agonizing uncertainty. Ronan and Orna Nutra, whose son Omer was tragically killed by Hamas and whose body remains in Gaza, described the deal as bittersweet. They expressed hope, but also acknowledged the pain of their loss. Their story encapsulates the complex emotions felt by many. The long-term impact of this agreement on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict remains unclear. It is a fragile truce in a region plagued by decades of violence. The international community must now seize this opportunity to push for a lasting peace. The road ahead is long and arduous, but the release of these hostages offers a ray of hope, a reminder of the human cost of this conflict, and the urgent need for a peaceful resolution.